What's up guys, it's Kraz here. Today I'm making a video regarding the dailies, and this is for all my homies that don't have a lot of time to play every day maybe, or maybe you have some days where you have limited time to play and you still want to make sure you get stuff done that will help progress your character in the long run. And let's just get right into it. So, the first thing I recommend, if you say you have a day where you only have 5 minutes to play and you're wondering where you should spend your time, definitely the first thing I would do is the Legacy of the Heradrum, and that's just because it's a very slow time-gated activity, but it does help boost your secondary stats, and while those don't affect your combat rating, in the long run it'll help out getting that extra armor penetration, damage, life, resistance, all that. And the next thing I would do is right after Iben Fahds, I would come to the Hilts Trader, and for daily purchases, you do have rare crests, but I kind of want to list everything from the Hilts Trader in the priority of how I would spend my hilts. Obviously, number one thing is monthly. You do want to buy this legendary crest, guaranteed. Definitely the best thing you can buy with your hilts. Second thing, I'd actually say is the Telluric Pearl, and I know there's the meme where it takes 40 of these, so 40 weeks technically to get one 5-star gem, but you do get some extra pearls from events, and I'm sure Blizzard will keep adding more ways to get these, and the expected value of your hilt cost for these is still good, so it's worth picking one of these up every week that you can. And for your simple charms, this would be my third priority. Always make sure to buy this 3 every week, and these do pop up in the limited shop as well, which resets like every 12 hours, and I would always pick these up whenever you get the opportunity. And after that, I'd actually say the normal gems would be my next priority. So it does cost 2,000 hilts a week to buy these 10, and they do pop up sometimes for 200 in the limited shop. So whenever you have the extra hilts, it's definitely worth buying all of them that you can. And for your priorities, I'd say the best are Tourmaline and Sapphire, and the more I've played the game, I used to think Tourmaline was your number one best bet, but now I think Sapphire would be your best bet as a free-to-play player, because once you get to Hell 5 and eventually the new Hells when they add them, your armor penetration as a free-to-play player is really lacking, and these will kind of help close the gap to where instead of doing reduced critical, you'll actually be doing bonus critical damage. And those have been what I've been buying for probably the last 2 months, I'd say. And after the normal gems, that's when I'd say the rare crest would be a good one to buy. And for these, I'd say it's only really worth having about 30 or so rare crests at a time. So if you have a lot of them, I wouldn't even pick these up with hilts. They really don't give you that much. I mainly just buy them so that I can contribute to the bonus weekly cap for your Fading Embers. And if you have 3 crests that you can run in each for your 10 runs for the week, that makes it a lot easier to find a party as well. And these do pop up in the limited time shop as well. And again, I'd say once you get above 30 or maybe around 60, I wouldn't even worry about buying these. And other than that, I don't really think anything else is worth paying hilts for, because stuff like the keys, even though we do want to run Iben Fahds Sanctum every day, you only want to clear the first room of chests generally until you get an excess of keys, say like over 400. Then you can run the whole thing and get that bonus chest, which really isn't worth anything, but sometimes in the later room, if you get that small % chance for bonus gems coming out of the chest, that can really add up, since the later chests do give more total gems, but at a less gem to key ratio. Where the first room, it takes 15 keys per day, and that gives you the best gem to key ratio. And stuff like the Carson's Invigoration, especially now that we're later into the game, this is just really not worth it. 1 gem power per month is nothing, and I'd rather save these hilts to eventually buy like more normal gems. As you can see, I'm running a little bit low, so you will hit a point where you're low on hilts, and being able to buy the normal gems is much more important than a single gem power per month. And the mystery legendary item, this is never worth it, even when you're first starting in the game and you have an abundance of hilts. These are just very easy to farm, and if you could choose which legendary you got, maybe this would be worth it. But even then, I'd only do it for like a build-defining legendary that hasn't dropped yet. But knowing that that's not even in the game, this is just never worth buying. And stuff like scrap materials, dust, this isn't worth it. It's a very small amount of hilts, but you get a very small amount of dust or scrap, so it really doesn't add up to anything either. And after the Hilts Trader, if you are in the shadows, which typically most people will be shadow for more of their game time than Immortal, make sure you do the assembly every day. It doesn't run on Sundays, but it only takes about 10 minutes if you can get everything in the first cycle, and it gives you quite a bit of experience, and it gives you those keys, which is what we need for the Legacy of the Heratrim. And in the shadows, you also have your daily quest. I usually don't worry too much about these, but it's always complete a contract for 1, raid the vault for 1, and then something random that is usually pretty easy. If you care about your shadow rank, definitely try to get these done, but if you're not too worried about it, I wouldn't stress over these. And you only need to do 1 contract per day. I know on Mondays they give you 3 contracts, but there's no point in doing that because the contract rewards themselves are very low, and you don't get bonus marks for completing multiple contracts in the same day, so I wouldn't bother with that. And if you are in an Immortal clan, it is worth doing the Immortal dailies, and those can definitely get pretty time consuming, but if you know you don't have a lot of time, what I would do is just run the 3 dungeons on normal mode solo, and you'll just completely one-shot everything. It'll be very quick. So, as a free-to-play player, we do lack on normal gems, and that's why I kind of recommend buying them from the Hilts Trader here. So it's very worth it to try to join a hidden lair every day if you can, because you'll get 6 normal gems that are untradable that way, and that's kind of the way you'll boost your secondary gems for your character, is between the hidden lairs and the Hilts Trader, and then just random events you'll get some gems sometimes. If you have a little bit more time in the day, I'd say it's worth doing 3 Bestiary turn-ins. It takes about an hour, so if you know you won't have much time to play, it might not be worth it, but it's really good to try to get that done in a 4-player party, because then you can get unbound normal gems, which is the only way we can really make platinum as a free-to-play player. And depending on if the boosted dungeon for the week, like we can see Forgotten Tower, that's one I really want to run. So if I don't have much time, rather than doing 3 Bestiary turn-ins, I'd rather run Forgotten Tower to try to get my normal gems that way, because the pages, they don't matter too much. Like, they are for achievements, so if you are about wanting to complete all the achievements you can, definitely want to keep working on the Bestiary. But if you're not too worried about achievements, I'd say just stick with what will give your character the most power in the long run. And as a side note on that, killing 1 orange Ancient Elite every day does guarantee a legendary drop. So if you just recently changed classes, or if you're still missing some key legendaries, it's definitely worth finding at least 1 Ancient Elite per day. And most of the time you can find that pretty easily by just doing your 3 Bestiary turn-ins. Otherwise, you can try roaming the map, but in my experience, that's pretty unreliable. Usually if you're trying to run around the map to find an orange elite, even if you do see one, someone else might already be fighting it. And then you can try to quickly join their party, but if they're already in a group or if maybe they don't see it, you might not even get the drop. Another big one is a lot of players I see every day in multiple like chat channels or even on like Reddit or YouTube, they'll mention it, how they do their bounties every day. And I'm a player where the only time I ever do bounties is if there's a limited time event that asks me to do some bounties, or if I'm an Immortal, I'll typically do the 2 bounties since that gives you 2 sigils, where none of the other tasks give you 2 sigils. Bounties just, to me, they're annoying, repetitive, and the rewards you get really aren't worth anything at all. When you turn in your 4 bounties, it gives you like a couple thousand gold, not even enough to gamble, and it'll give you like maybe 2 blue items. I remember the first time I ever tried out bounties, I did get a legendary item drop, but after doing them for like 3 or 4 weeks after that point, I realized that I never got a legendary again, so it kind of felt rigged by Blizzard, or just to show you that, hey, you can get legendaries from these, but the drop rate is so poor, it feels like the same chances as killing a white mob, and the small, pitiful amount of gold or blue items you normally get just makes it really not worth your time. You'd get further progression by just farming the open world in your favorite spot rather than doing bounties. So my verdict on those is if you find them fun, go for it, but it's definitely not worth doing as a progression type activity. And that about covers it for daily activities, but there are some weekly activities I wanted to go over. And starting with, I'd say it's best if you can find a warband. So if you're a player where you might not have much time, it can be a little more difficult finding a warband that might fit your time, or you might not have a consistent time to play at all. But it is worth trying to get into a warband if you know there is maybe a time at least once a week, but hopefully twice a week on the alternating resets where you could run raids. It makes it quicker having a group of people ready to do the raids with you, and then if you do need to filling 3 people, that's a lot easier than filling 7 people if you're just trying to freshly start all the raids yourself and join them that way. And you'll want to do that twice per week, because unfortunately it's still at a bi-weekly reset, which is just not fun at this point with how many raids there are and how small the scoria you get from them is. I'd much rather we change to like once per week, or maybe once every 2 weeks even, with just increased rewards, but for the time being, twice a week it is. And on top of that, if you are in a warband, make sure you get the normal mode of the defensive Serengar done every week, because that does guarantee you a legendary, ancient item I think they're called. Really what it boils down to is just it's worth doing because it's pretty quick, easy, and you get a guaranteed legendary item, plus some random yellow items and scrap material. And if you are in the shadows, you definitely want to raid the vault and get 40 chests per week if you can. It is a time-gated activity, so there are many times where I don't even get the 40 chests done in a week, but if you can, it's worth doing. Saving up gold, like right now I have 2.2 million. Right now I don't really need it, but it is used for gambling and upgrading your equipment. Usually you won't be locked out of upgrades based on gold, but being able to gamble, that's one of the better ways to get legendary items, either new essences or trying to farm for like a triple stat or exceptional in either your armor or weapon slots. And fading embers, I mentioned this in my last video, but you really want to cap this out every week. Best way to cap out the weekly limit is if you can find a party with everyone using 3 crest and hopefully staying for the full 10 runs. Because if everyone uses 3 crest and you have 4 players, you'll cap the 120 in 10 runs, and you'll use 30 of your own crest. The weekly limit, you do have to run a total of 35 Elder Rifts per week, so if you don't want to run like 20 Elder Rifts on Sunday, try to get a couple of these in per day, but I'm definitely guilty of running like 20 Elder Rifts on Sundays quite often, so I feel for you if you're in that spot as well. If you do have a decent amount of time to play, and you're wondering like what to do weekly, being able to cap your battle pass every week is worth it. I've only done it maybe once or twice because I don't typically have that much time to play. But the best way to cap it out is between your Bestiary turn-ins is like I'd say number 2 option, with your number 1 option being running dungeons. So just run the best dungeon if it's boosted for set items you're looking for, and you'll cap it pretty quickly typically. And that's about it for activities. Anything I didn't mention is just something that I don't find worth doing at all. It didn't even make the list, so it didn't even come to my mind as something I'd mention is not worth doing. But stuff like the timed events, like Ancient Nightmare, Haunted Carriage, that type of stuff, I would never try to adjust your schedule around getting those done. Because if you're currently in an activity, like if I'm farming dungeons with a group, I'm not going to stop farming a dungeon to go to that activity, even if I'm already on at the time. The only time I typically attend those events is if you're standing in West March wondering what to do, and then you see someone mention in chat either like Hydra, Golem, or Haunted Carriage coming up, anything like that, then you might as well take the 5 minutes or so to go complete it. But it's not worth adjusting your schedule to or stopping what you're doing to do those events. And yeah, I think that's it. If there is something that I missed and you guys try to do it either every day or every week, feel free to drop it in a comment below, and I can let you know my thoughts on that as well. I'm assuming if I missed it, it's probably not that good, but maybe there's something I still don't know about this game, and you guys can help me out too. So if you watched this long, please leave a like and subscribe. That would really help me a lot. And if you have any suggestions or stuff you're wondering, feel free to leave a comment. And I do take suggestions, so I could make a video explaining something more if there's anything you're confused about. Thank you.